They're talking about raising estate taxes to 45%.
Well, I'm here with Edward Schuh from Inception Financial Services, and today we're going to try and answer the question of how the federal government is going to pay back the nearly $6.3 trillion in stimulus spending from the pandemic.
Every time I hear that number, Robert, it just makes me angry. A lot of people don't realize how much that really is. And let me just put this into perspective. Let's say the government cuts the budget by roughly $300 billion.
Billion
right?
with a B.
Billion with a B, right? Because that's what we're looking to we want to try to cut the budget. So we're going to cut it by $300 billion. Now, if we slash some zeros off of our $28 plus trillion debt, it would be like paying $3,000 on a debt of $280,000.
Holy
A
smokes.
drop in the bucket. So a lot of times when we talk about trillions and billions, we kind of lose sight and lose perspective of what that means because those numbers are so huge. So the $6 trillion that you're talking about, I mean, that doesn't necessarily even include the fact that we were going to have a $1 trillion deficit to begin with.
That's right.
Moving forward, we will likely continue to have trillion-dollar deficits. And the issue is I don't see it getting better anytime soon.
And does that even include the infrastructure package that they're talking about right now?
No. The infrastructure, that's another, 2 to 3 trillion
So now what
or
are we
so?
up to?
So we're looking at, $8-9 trillion?
In a matter of 2 years.
Well, let's call it maybe 2. If it takes them a while to get that infrastructure bill in, it might be 2.5 years.
What's the most that the federal government has spent in a single year? What's the largest deficit we've spent in a single year prior to 2020?
I believe it was back during the financial crisis, during the recession, and I want to say it was about 1.5 trillion or so.
And so we just did close to 10 trillion in almost 2 years time.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know what? I don't want to make light of it, Robert, because with everything that has happened with the pandemic, a lot of people are suffering. I'm not trying to say that it's not necessary. The question is, how are we going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it, and when?
That's right. Yeah, the focus is how, and why we invited you to talk about it today, is how reasonable is the current payback plan in comparison with the 10 trillion that we've committed to?
Sure. So the current administration has come out with a tax plan for being able to pay all of this money back. And the main goal or the main promise is, hey, we're not going to raise taxes on anybody earning under $400,000. And I'm hopeful that they can keep that promise because that would be a big impact to a lot of families. But the reality is that plan that they've come out with is supposed to raise an estimated $3 trillion in additional tax revenue over the next 10 years.
Which seems significant.
Seems significant. Let's break that down year by year, though. In 1 year, that means we're going to average, what number did I use before? That $300 billion in savings per year. So $300 billion over the next 10 years is a total of $3 trillion. If we're still spending, our deficit is still over $1 trillion a year, and then some, which we see now. That's a drop in the bucket.
So
it's not realistic. So the question I would ask you, Robert, is where do you think they're going to get that money from?
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to ask
Exactly.
you the same question.
Exactly. So for most of us, if we think that just by taxing that top 1% or that top 2% is going to make a dent in the debt that we have now, I think we're being a little naive. It's not going to take too long to realize that the path that we are on is unsustainable. And we need to do everything we can now to pay some tax now to insulate ourselves from those future tax rates.
Yeah, and it really concerns me, especially about multi-generational wealth and what this is going to do to my kids. Tell me, how can we protect ourselves real quickly before we wrap up? What's one way we can protect our wealth that we've spent a lifetime accumulating that not only we want to use for our own financial independence and retirement, but also for multi-generational wealth?
So, I mean, one of my favorite investment tools is a Roth IRA or Roth conversions. There are a number of tools that are at our disposal. The reason that that is one of my favorite is that it can be passed on free of tax because taxes have already been paid on it. So we can put money into that type of vehicle. It grows for years. When we pass away, part of our legacy, I mean, we can use it if we need it. If not, we pass it on to our heirs and they receive those funds tax-free. There are other vehicles as well, and I know for estate planning, we could get into additional tax-free vehicles, LARPs, life insurance to help cover estate taxes. That's another one. They're talking about raising estate taxes to 45%. I mean, it's on the table to raise capital gains from a 15 and 20% to being taxed as ordinary income. So, I mean, we're looking at a pivotal moment here, and hopefully we have enough time, but we don't know how much time we're going to have until this plan gets implemented. So we need to take advantage of every year while we have it.
Absolutely. And I know there's a specific amount and a specific strategy that you've developed to mitigate taxes. Of course, if you just did huge amounts of money in conversions, you'd end up with, above the 400,000 income level that
Sure.
Biden's going after.
Yep.
And we understand that we all need to participate. So we're
Right.
going to participate either now or participate later because we have to be solvent. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you to learn what they can do now in the next, year to 4 years, how best can they contact you to help them with that plan?
Yeah, I mean, they can just give us a call. We can find out with a simple 15-minute conversation the impact that we can generally make. Our goal is for those families who have roughly $500,000 or higher. Our goal that we go into that planning process is to create an additional $1 million in lifetime income over the course of their retirement. We've been pretty doggone successful doing that. So it is creating a huge impact. And one of the things that you mentioned that I do want to point out as well is there has to be balance. We need to be able to balance current tax rates with our projected tax rates. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily make sense to implement some plans if we're going to have to pay 50% tax to do it, because hopefully in the future we don't have it that bad, although there have been times where it has gotten worse than that. So
what was the highest tax bracket in history?
The highest tax bracket historically was 94%.
And in the 70s?
70%.
I'm quizzing you. You did a great
Yeah.
job. I appreciate that. Well, if anybody would like to get some help on learning exactly what strategy Edward has developed, we'll put some contact information down below. Feel free to schedule a 15-minute learning session, and he'd be happy to put that plan together for you.
Thanks for watching our video, and if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. You can support us on our other social media platforms through the links in the description. If you are interested in getting involved with us, schedule a 15-minute call today on our website. Be sure to check out our live streams and podcasts, link in the description. Thanks for watching. Peace.